Hi there, I'm Sherry Stock, and I'm one of the directors at Camp Kodiak, and during the year I'm a special education teacher in Ontario. Now, if you are a parent or a teacher, or really any adult who spends a lot of time with kids, then it is the case that you will have to tell children things that they don't want to hear. You'll have to tell them to go to bed, or to turn off their video game, or to start their science test. And there's really no getting around that. But if kids perceive that all of their interactions with you are around these messages that they don't really like, then it can impact the relationship that you have with those kids. And for that reason, during training week at Camp Kodiak, I talked to the staff about something that I like to call the bouncer and the cheerleader. And it's a way of reframing some of these conversations to preserve and in some cases even strengthen those relationships.
And if I'm missing all my good friends, I know they're up ahead just around the bend. Tomorrow is sweet cause we're all gonna meet at Kodiak.
So first we need to think, what is a bouncer? A bouncer is a person whose job it is to monitor the behavior of customers, to enforce the rules of the venue, and to dole out some sort of consequence, typically ejecting the person who is breaking those rules. And while the other customers, the ones who were maybe annoyed by or harassed by the person who was breaking rules, would very much appreciate the job of the bouncer, that really can't be said for the person who was bounced. A cheerleader is completely different. A cheerleader is someone who is always on the side of the team that they cheer for. They cheer for that team whether they're winning or losing, whether they're having a good game or a bad game. And really, in doing so, they make that team better. Sometimes, adults who work with kids inadvertently put ourselves in the position of bouncer when we really could be a cheerleader. So let me give you an example, and it's an example I use with the staff at camp. Let's say we have a 14-year-old boy, a camper, who is having difficulty monitoring his language. He's usually okay when he's with his own cabin mates, his own counselors in a very structured activity. But there is one time of day at camp, it's right after dinner, we call it free play. And at this time, all of the counselors are on duty, all of the campers are supervised, but the structure is a little looser, and the kids may not be with their own cabin mates, and they may not be directly supervised by their own counselors. And during free play, this camper keeps swearing or using offensive language. And the counselors have talked to him about it. They have, tried a bunch of different interventions. He understands the rule. He understands the reason for the rule. And despite all of their best efforts, it hasn't made a difference. So that counselor now has two choices. They can go up to the camper and say, look, we've tried all of these different strategies. They haven't worked. It's a really big problem that you're using offensive language. And the next time I hear it, you're going to have to miss free play and spend it in the office. And to make sure that I'm consistent in this, I'm going to spend free play with you. I'm going to be stuck to you like glue, and I'm going to be listening. And if you swear, off to the office. Now, in that situation, you're a bouncer. You are monitoring their behavior, and you are doling out a consequence. And that conversation is probably not going to go very well. That camper is going to feel like you're picking on them, and that you're just waiting for them to slip up. So I propose an alternative. You could say that, the office has told me that they are aware that you have been swearing. It's come to their attention, and they're very concerned about it. And that they've told me that the next time you do it, you're going to have to go to the office and lose free play. And I really don't want that to happen. I know free play is one of your favorite parts of the day. I want you to have that time to spend with your friends. So why don't we sit down together and make a plan so that you're not swearing at free play and you don't miss it. And in the course of making the plan, one of the strategies you choose may be that you as a counselor are going to stick close by this camper to give them signals or cues and help keep them from making a mistake. You'll notice that the consequence is still the same. If they're swearing, they still go to the office. The strategy might even be the same. But in this case, you're a cheerleader. You're working with the camper to make a plan, to make sure that they get something that they like and that they're successful, and they're avoiding a result that is unpleasant. So this conversation is going to go a lot better. The camper's going to feel like you're on their side. The camper's going to feel like you have their back and that you're working with them towards their success. Now you'll notice that I said the office said and not Sherry said, because what we want to do is externalize the enforcement of those rules without jeopardizing any other important relationships in our child's life. And this is especially true when we're talking about, other caregivers, the child's teacher. We really need to maintain those relationships. But the truth is that I would have been okay if the counselor says Sherry said. I'm okay being the bad guy sometimes, because I'm not the one who has a million interactions a day with this child. I'm not the one getting them out of bed in the morning. I'm not the one putting them to bed at night. I'm not the one telling them to take a shower, use good table manners, and I'm not correcting their behavior if they make a mistake. So really, if they're mad at me, if they don't like me, that impacts their success at camp and their enjoyment of their summer much less than if they're mad at or don't like their counselor. And I really do want to have good relationships with all of the campers at camp. So I will find a time to work on repairing that relationship with that camper. I will let them know that I heard something great about them. I'll give them a merit announcement or catch them doing something good. And I can do that a little bit easier because my schedule is a bit more flexible. Now the same goes for teachers and administrators at school. Now as a teacher, I handle most situations in my own classroom. But if there is a situation that is particularly serious, or if there is a student with whom I already have a bit of a shaky relationship, then I really appreciate if I have a principal or a vice principal who can step up and be that bouncer for me every now and then. Because having a positive relationship between a teacher and a student is really, really important for that student's success. And I want to do everything I can to prioritize that relationship without just letting kids get away with anything. So if that administrator can help me out and be the bouncer every now and then it puts me in a position of being a cheerleader and preserving or even strengthening the relationship with my student. Now sometimes you're going to have to be creative to figure out ways to externalize the enforcement of the rules without jeopardizing any other relationships. So let me give you a few examples. Let's say you have a child who really objects to wearing winter clothing. Now, I live in Canada. It's going to be cold for months every year. And kids really just don't have a choice. They need to wear a hat, mitts, scarves, winter coat. But what you can do is you can set a threshold temperature with your child. And it doesn't really matter what that threshold is. It could be 5 degrees, 0 degrees. But you say to your child, look, if the weather in the morning is 0 degrees or less, then we're going to have to wear our winter clothes. And if the weather is 1 degree or higher, then we don't. So every morning, we're going to listen to the weather report, and the meteorologist is going to be in charge of telling us how we dress for the outside weather. Now, the meteorologist doesn't really care if your child doesn't like them. They don't have a relationship. And it doesn't have to be the meteorologist. It could be Siri or Alexa. It could be, the thermometer outside your window. It's something that's not a relationship that's now going to enforce that temperature rule with you. Another example would be a high school student who maybe is having trouble getting to school on time. And you've been spending every morning nagging them and cajoling them and forcing them out of bed, and it really is setting off everybody's day in a really negative way. What you can do is say, look, I've read your agenda, and I know that after 3 lates, you start getting detentions for being late to school. And I know that you hate detentions, and I know that you're already at 2 lates. So let's sit down together and make a plan and have some strategies so that you will be on time at school and you won't have to waste your time in detention. And those strategies might include, setting extra alarm clocks or having a list of what needs to get done in the morning, setting out your clothes in advance or doing your lunch the night before. It could be any number of strategies that work for your family. But in this case, you are a cheerleader. You are helping your child be successful and avoid a result that is unpleasant. Now, sometimes it can be hard to find that externalizing factor because it's a rule that you yourself have made for your house or your classroom. But in this case, you can still externalize it by writing a contract. So let's say in your home, your child has a certain number of chores that need to get done every week in order to collect their allowance on Saturday. And your child is always trying to get out of the chores, or they do them half-heartedly, And on Saturday, you always feel bad, and you always give them the allowance anyway. And you kind of resent it. What you can do is draw up a contract with your child about what needs to get done and what is the minimum quality of each of those tasks. And then you just say to your child, look, the contract says we need to get all these chores done before Saturday in order to collect your allowance. I know you're really looking forward to that allowance. I know you've already got plans for how to spend it. So why don't you and I sit down together and figure out a way to get this done? You'll notice in all of these examples, we didn't lower the expectations. The child didn't get out of doing the thing that they needed to do. But you were on their side, helping to develop a plan with them so they could be successful in doing what they needed to do and they could avoid any negative results. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to avoid all of the difficult conversations with your kids. But hopefully, by thinking about the bouncer and the cheerleader, you'll be able to reframe at least some of those conversations so that your child knows that you're always on their side. And that when you do have to play the bouncer, they understand that it's just part of your job. It's part of the process of taking care of them. And they'll know that those conversations don't define your relationship. I hope this has been helpful. As always, please feel free to reach out.